On this month's episode of GroupCollect The Podcast, we tackle the extremely relevant and important debate of who had the first Thanksgiving, Plymouth, Massachusetts, or St. Augustine, Florida. We also talk to Jennie Gulley, a savvy group travel veteran who does one of the hardest things there is to do in this field, which is to hire and retain excellent tour directors. But before we get into the show, let's talk about another group travel podcast that we know you'll love, and that is, of course, the Gather and Go podcast with Brian Jewell. Consider this essential listening for tour operators and travel entrepreneurs. Brian is a friend of GroupCollect and a longtime travel journalist, and in every episode he interviews travel experts and thought leaders who bring great ideas and incredible insights to travel businesses like yours. You'll learn how to level up marketing, reach new customers, plan trips new ways or to new destinations, and become more profitable in the process. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and find Gather and Go on your favorite listening app or at grouptravelleader.com/podcast. Once again, that is grouptravelleader.com/podcast. But with that, let's get into your November installation of GroupCollect the Podcast, shall we? All right, welcome everyone to GroupCollect the Podcast, the only show on the internet that brings you insights from the world of group travel technology, as well as news about your favorite group travel tech company, which is GroupCollect. I am your host, Erik Young, and today I am joined by Kathlyn Liles from our headquarters in St. Augustine, and, as usual, from Weymouth, Massachusetts. It's our Director of Product Management, Ryan Kramer, everybody. How has November been going for each of you so far?
It has been great. Things are moving and grooving along.
We like that. We like the moving and the grooving. How about you, Ryan?
I've been cool in collecting, both in the metaphorical sense at my job and very cool here in sunny Boston, Massachusetts, where the temperatures are falling into the 40s and 30s pretty consistently already. So cold. That's how I've been.
It went from cool to cold right there in the response.
In the response.
All right. So speaking of November, this is the month of Thanksgiving, but I need a ruling. We, the people, need a ruling. All right. Where did the first Thanksgiving happen? All right. We are bringing this up on GroupCollect the Podcast because I was actually in our headquarters of St. Augustine, Florida the other day. I happened to be lucky enough to take a trolley ride. The guide of the trolley ride blew my mind by staking claim that St. Augustine actually stakes claim to the first Thanksgiving. So, Kathlyn, you did a little bit of research. Ryan, I think that you are indoctrinated on this topic as a citizen of the state of Massachusetts in the first place. So we wanted to take a segment of this show so that we could present the facts as they are found in the research on where the first Thanksgiving took place. Now, Kathlyn, you are going to represent St. Augustine, Florida. Ryan, for obvious reasons, you are going to represent the state of Massachusetts, specifically Plymouth, Massachusetts, where many have learned that the first Thanksgiving took place, or many are told. And then what we're going to do after the facts have been laid out, we need the court of public opinion to make the ruling. So that is you, dear listener of GroupCollect the Podcast. You're going to hear out both sides, and then you're going to email us back, write us back, respond in your wherever it is that you're listening to this show, and let us know who you think is right. So let's start. We're gonna go from south to north. All right, Kathlyn, give us the case for why St. Augustine, Florida, has the first Thanksgiving.
Yes, well, as most of you know, or most of you might not know, St. Augustine is actually the first city in our nation. It was Pedro Menendez who came here from Spain, and he settled here. And in 1565, he held a feast with the Timucua people, which were the native Floridians.
Okay.
And that was 50 years before the Plymouth Thanksgiving happened. Pedro Menendez held the first Feast of Thanks with the Timucua people.
The
Most historians,
semantics are key there.
Yes, so most historians consider this the actual first Thanksgiving. So it was with the Spanish settlers and the native people of Florida. And it was the same. It was a service, there was a big mass, and then there was a communal meal with both sides, where both of them brought the food that they had. So the Spanish brought what they had left over on the ships and the wine, and then the Timucua people brought what they had been growing there and what was native there to Florida at the time. So I think it was the first big celebration and thanks of let's come together as one and share everything that we have.
All right, interesting, interesting. Ryan, we're gonna bounce on over to you now. Make your case. Why was the first Thanksgiving in Plymouth, Massachusetts, as many of us have been taught growing up here in the States?
Look, I love St. Augustine. It's where my beloved company is headquartered. I think that it's an absolutely astoundingly beautiful city. And I don't deny the fact that, 50 years upstream of when the first Thanksgiving occurred in Plymouth, there was a holiday or a festival that had some similar attributes down in the beautiful city of St. Augustine. However, in the research that we all communally did for this podcast here, something that we were reminded of is that Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator, was the one to ultimately designate Thanksgiving as a holiday, and the timing and kind of the iconography that President Lincoln chose was preferential to that of the first Thanksgiving holiday, as I know it, in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Now, many times I've been to the beautiful Plymouth Patuxent museums. Gotten to speak with historical reenactors about their experience at the first Thanksgiving, and then even more meaningfully so, have gotten to go over to the Wampanoag homeland and speak with folks over there, descendants of folks who would have been at that first Thanksgiving, and speak about the complicated feelings that they all have about the holiday.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, yeah, no, it's real highly plug for the Plymouth Patuxent Museums, everybody, when you're in Plymouth. Really impactful experience. But when we think about Thanksgiving, when we think about it being a celebration of community, when we think about it being this harvest feast in the autumn, when we think about again the icons that we kind of have coalesced around, we go with what was happening in Plymouth. So I would maintain that Thanksgiving as we know it, Thanksgiving as we celebrate it, did indeed originate here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I respectfully rest my case, Your Honor.
So I'm going to distill down both arguments to basically St. Augustine's celebration, giving of thanks, happened first. And that is undeniably a chronological fact.
I concede that point.
Plymouth, Massachusetts has a presidential designation. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for both of your cases. What we're going to do now is segue into our interview, everybody. We have a very special guest of the show. Her name is Jennie Gulley, a manager of tour managers extraordinaire. She has a lot of experience working with American tour operator companies and a very, very specific expertise in taking groups to large, famous holiday parades, such as the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. So, without further ado, everybody, this is our conversation with Jennie Gulley. All right, everybody, we are here with our very, very special guest, Jennie Gulley. Jennie, how you doing today?
I am in beautiful Baltimore. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, it's wonderful that you are here. We appreciate you taking the time. You're in Baltimore for the IATDG conference, is that correct?
Correct. So Tour Connect. We're here to find some awesome tour directors.
Very good. You know what? I want everybody that is listening right now to get to know you as well as Kathlyn and I know you. We've been fortunate enough to work with you in a variety of capacities as colleagues in the group travel industry, but please tell everybody about yourself, your background, and how you got into the group travel industry.
Oh boy, where to start? I always grew up wanting to travel. I don't know if anyone remembers the Carmen Sandiego computer game, but that was always my favorite. And
Oh,
my parents
absolutely.
were in the Navy, so we traveled around quite a bit. So I always kind of knew I wanted to do something with that. And I did a degree in international relations and started working for a nonprofit that brought people from embassies to the States and essentially gave them tours. And I kind of knew that tours for students were a thing because my mom is a teacher. That was her second career. And she would take us to Europe during the summers. So I just tried it out. I was about a year out of college and I didn't want to sit at a desk. And I love history and I love people. So I started doing student tours in 2011 and never looked back.
Did you go some sort of a conventional route of one of the tour manager training programs?
A lot of people do this. I just Googled get paid to travel, which
Uh-huh.
doesn't seem like it would end up working out for someone, but it really did. It was the International Tour Management Institute in San Francisco. So I flew there on Thanksgiving Day, did 2 weeks of that school, did a symposium, so kind of like what I'm doing right now in Baltimore. Got hired, and again, just never stopped.
So you have risen in the ranks. You're ITMI alum and been in the game since 2011. Now, I would classify you as a manager of tour managers, but I want you to tell us in your own words, what is it that you do now in the group travel industry? Kind of give us the rundown on that.
It's such a hard question to answer. I get to do a little bit of everything, which I like. I feel like most tour managers are pretty ADD in a good way. We have to do so many things on the road. The biggest part of my job is hiring and managing our tour directors. So finding them at conferences, but not just conferences. Anyone can make a good tour manager, whether or not they know the industry exists.
Right.
So finding good people, we do like to keep people around for a long time. So building those relationships and of course, scheduling, which is a giant, jigsaw puzzle. So that's the bulk of it. I do some graphic design. I check our itineraries. I'm always looking for new vendors for our itineraries and really just whatever pops up.
And when you hire new people, do you train them as well?
It's a little different for every company. We do a little bit of training. So tour directors are generally independent contractors, which means you do have to come prepared for a lot of background info. So there are things that you can do like ITMI, which I did, and it gives you the basics of how to load people on the bus and, what kind of commentary you should give at which location. So there are tons of those programs today. It is definitely beneficial for someone to take one. But as far as training for us, it's more on the job training. So they will either shadow, like observe a tour director giving a tour. Sometimes they'll have their own bus if it's in a light destination. So Orlando was actually my first training tour, and I had an experienced tour director on the first bus, and I was the trainee on the second bus.
And what would be the biggest piece of advice that you have for someone who manages and hires tour managers?
I could give so much advice because this job, it was kind of created for me in this company. And so there were no guidelines, and I had to figure out a lot of things on the way to make it what we wanted it to be. But ultimately, at the heart of it, it's creating relationships. I think, especially as someone who has done the job, you realize how difficult and tasking the job is. So when something comes up, everyone gets sick, everyone has a family emergency. Being understanding and trying to work around things goes a long way. Again, they're independent contractors, so it can be kind of lonely to be out on the road sometimes. So creating a sense of unity is really important and making them feel like they're part of something bigger. Like I said, with any managerial position, not just tour industry, being human goes a long way, creates a lot of trust, and I think it comes back tenfold when you really need somebody.
What would you say is your overall hack in the recruiting process of a good tour manager, or better yet, evaluating who will be a successful tour manager?
I This might be an unpopular answer, but I go off personality and vibes. It's a very first impressions oriented business that we're in. with our clients. And so I think sometimes I feel guilty for feeling that way and taking that into account. But then I remind myself that that is also what our clients will do as well. So first impressions count a lot. But I think if someone has the right personality, the training can follow. You know, you
Hmm.
can give someone all the training in the world and they might still not be a good fit to take 50 people into New York. You know, when I first started tour directing, I got kind of worried because there are a lot of people that are very extroverted and have big personalities. So I didn't think I would fit in as a tour director. And luckily, one of the directors at ITMI pulled me aside and they said, you know, you just have to be yourself and then people will like you. And I have found over the years that at 5 a.m. when you have to get up to go to the airport, they don't want someone like very on and very excited. It's okay to just be one of them and just be yourself. So that's what I look for. I just have conversations with people, and these conferences are actually really helpful because it's not only the interview desk that you see them at social events, and you get a better feel for how they operate in the world. You are interviewing for a position that is so dynamic and touches so many different areas of expertise. It's almost impossible to determine if that person has it while they're sitting at a table across from you.
Right, right.
So it's very high stakes hiring and training, and even the follow up is like pretty high stakes because they are the ones, especially when they're off on their own, they are the ones that know what's going on. It goes back to building those connections and having a lot of trust as well.
Yeah. And I love that given all of that, I mean, you mentioned how dynamic the role of tour managing is, right? There's so many skill sets that are involved in it, that the number one criteria that you found, as far as evaluation, vibes. It's
Yeah,
like
no,
there's
it
no
sounds
there's
so
no
millennial.
algorithm. You feel like there would need to be some sort of like, a multi-tiered personality data-based, system, but it really it can't be that complicated. There's no way it could be measured accurately.
It's so
Um,
true.
yeah, I mean, vibes are important. You mentioned first impressions. It's the tour operator that you work for saying it needs to be somebody that you want to hang out with, but it's also like somebody that you would want to hang out with for 4 days. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because there's a personality type that you might like in small doses, right? They're cool. They're cool to like wait on your table at dinner, but they might not be somebody that's like after day two of this personality type, it
You're
might
like,
be
I'm
a bit
tired.
much. Right. Right.
That's exactly it. And we actually have a phrase, we call them chameleons. So I have tour directors of all kinds, and some do have very big personalities, and some are a little bit quieter. And so it is easy knowing them to put them with groups and clients because our clients have different personalities too. You know, we have directors that are definitely introverted and don't want someone that's like super on. But ultimately, what I'm looking for is a chameleon. So someone that can go with any group, anytime, any city. And those people are extremely hard to find. But once you do, it makes your job a lot easier.
Right, right. Then it comes into the whole retention side of the game, as you were mentioning,
Exactly.
right? How how do now that you have somehow identified this chameleon out in the wild, how do you keep them from running away from your organization?
I mean, that basically is my job in a nutshell, especially right now. You know, like I said, I know it sounds so like one dimensional, but the connections. So it's one of the more fun parts of my job. I know I don't have to do it this way, but I could send a text or an email. A lot of times I'll just pick up the phone and call them because, again, independent contractors don't have an office and they don't have coworkers that they see every day. So they like for you to reach out. And it's so much better to chat for 15 minutes and then say, hey, I know you're already pretty slammed, but we just got this tour. Would you mind taking it? Rather than just treating it as a business transaction, I think I mean, it's pleasant for me, but I'm sure it's pleasant for them too. On top of that, we do things like retreats. So we all get together because, again, not everyone lives in the same city and we don't have a shared office. I like to put friends together on tour when I can. I definitely make an effort if I know that they like a certain city or a certain tour director or, I know that they want to go home and see their husband. Like, I take all those things into account. I have a little space where they can write requests and notes. So, it's not a guarantee. It kind of just depends on which tours pop up. But as, again, someone who lived this lifestyle for 13 years, that goes a really long way rather than just slapping random tours down and saying, this is what we have. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention competitive pay. It's been, like I said, I've been in the industry for a very long time, and it is a very difficult job that not just anyone can do. And I do think in the past it's been very underappreciated. But, things are starting to catch up. So I will say the company I work for, we offer very good pay, and that really helps because it's quality versus quantity. And it enables me to, like you said, keep the good ones from escaping because I have a
Yeah.
little more, and I think a lot of the thing, it's not even just about money for tour directors. Like, they want to work for a company that values them, and they want to work with a company that has really good itineraries. But sometimes you do have to make financial decisions. And so, they will ultimately go where the money goes if they have to. And it's really nice if you can have all three.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given how we've established how challenging it is to find the chameleons, the ones that are super great at the role and can do so many different places with so many different types of groups, um, I would imagine that what's been determined over the years by tour operators is it's actually more cost effective to pay a little bit more so we can keep the gifted ones, the ones that are great.
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know and so I mean, because the money is gonna come out in the wash one way or another, whether you have to hit the pavement and find a whole new staff of independent contractor tour managers every season, or if you can kind of get your team and like you said, kind of build this sense of family and community among a team that has loyalty to you, then that's got to be a more cost-effective way, and certainly the pay is going to be an element of that, no matter how you slice it.
I would say so. And, we could never split it into exact percentages, what makes a successful trip. But ultimately, the tour manager is the person that is front facing. And they are
Yeah,
the
for
person that's
better or
going to
worse.
fix. Exactly, exactly. So who knows if it's 30%, 50%, like of what makes a trip successful, but it is a large percentage. So
Yeah.
I do think investing in that does come back in spades for sure.
Well,
Yes.
you know that I could pontificate on this with you all afternoon, being that I am from the world of tour managing or directing. I notice you refer to it as a tour director. Would you say that that's the industry standard term, or is tour manager, tour director totally interchangeable?
I feel like every company has their version of it. I would
Yeah.
say the most commonly accepted is tour director.
Tour director. All right. I'm going back
Yep.
to tour director then. But yeah, I love talking tour directing. I broke into the group travel industry as a tour director, which is how I know you. So, yeah, I love talking about this stuff. There is, a piece of my heart that will always belong to that specific role. But I do want to pivot because you also have this in your background as a tour director, another excellent skill that I think is relevant this time of year. A lot of tour operators might be gearing up to send their groups, a marching band perhaps, to a large holiday parade in a big city, something like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York
Mm-hmm.
City. You've been to a few of those. And so we wanted to ask you, what are your biggest pieces of advice for actually leading a group to a large holiday parade like Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade or any of the other ones that are a big part of the parades here in the country?
I mean, at the heart of it, there are all the same steps. So you do have to spot fairly early. And Macy's, you also have to do a run through at night, pretty late at night.
Ah,
So you need to expect uncommonly late or early hours for any parade. Rose Bowl, you and I did a Rose Bowl parade together, and I think we stepped out of the hotel, was it like 3 a.m., 4 a.m.,
yeah, it's
something
it's
like
like
that?
it's like a is it worth falling asleep decision.
Exactly.
Like from the night before, you're like, no, just power through.
Exactly. So I would be prepared to wake up and stay up late. Um, be prepared to wait. it's like hurry up and wait, right? So you have to make sure you get somewhere on time, but they might not need you for an hour. So you might just be hanging out, and sometimes that has its benefits. One time we did the Macy's parade, and Shawn Mendes was on the float in front of us. So we
Mm.
got to hang out with Shawn Mendes for an hour. So yeah, waiting. The weather, I think, always surprises someone when we do these because it might not seem that bad, but when you're sitting on pavement in the cold, it can be pretty chilly. So I would say long underwear,
Hmm.
thermals are
Yes, well,
always
and that it always seems to, it's like rain or shine too. So you have to be prepared
exactly.
because even if it's snowing, I think they still
Oh
will
yeah, you're
march.
marching.
Oh yeah. Yeah, all kinds of weather. And especially when you're in line, you can't retreat. You have to stay where you're supposed to be. So yeah, be prepared for weather, be prepared to wake up early, stay up late. But aside from that, I mean, it's pretty easy. All of these parades are very well organized, Rose Bowl and Macy's especially. So if you follow their instructions, then everything's going to go well.
There's always, to me, I just see like, watching it on TV, you always see the large crowds. I feel like there's a larger number of people around. How do you manage a large group and an even larger group than normal in a city of people?
Yeah, I think even outside of the parade, you go to Manhattan during holiday season, regardless. It is pretty crazy. There's Christmas markets, the Rockettes are playing. They actually block Fifth Avenue off for pedestrian traffic. I think it's just all about communication and having good meeting points and just telling them ahead of time that it is going to be crowded. There's no way to avoid that. And just take it slow and stay with your buddy and have your phone charged. I remember when we were doing Macy's, we went Black Friday shopping
Hmm.
afterwards in Times Square, which of course was crazy. So we always have designated meeting points just in case anything, if anyone doesn't have a phone and they need to find somebody. So it's the same thing that we do, just kind of with a little more repeating than like on a normal trip.
With the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade specifically, I thought I remembered at one point you had told me that there is this sort of like reverse phenomenon in Manhattan, maybe especially Midtown, where many of the people that are locals leave the city. So even though there's a
Yes.
higher volume of tourists, there's less locals, so it kind of balances out. Is that still a thing, you think?
Yeah, I mean, every year is slightly different. So you never know what's going to happen, but the two that I've most recently been to, it did seem like Manhattan was a little sleepier
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving Day. And I think that's probably because if you're local, you're probably just, chilling with your family
Yeah,
wherever
you're
you're
going to the
from,
burbs,
or
right? Yeah, like
yeah,
you
exactly.
caught a train back to, like Western New Jersey or something.
Exactly. So I remember walking through Central Park and I didn't see a single soul. And this one was a while ago. And I saw Alan Rickman. I saw Professor Snape walking his dog. Just the two of us in Central Park. So if
Exactly as you
if
always
he can
imagined.
walk around without getting bothered, it's pretty dead.
Yeah, for real.
Hmm. Gotcha. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it might depend on the years too. Who knows? I feel like a lot of things post-COVID, it's so hard to keep like a pulse on them. Sometimes things go crazy and some things are still kind of recovering. So, yeah,
if you could name one of the parades that you thought was the best overall experience, which one do you think that it would be?
that's a really hard question, actually. I have a soft spot for the St. Patty's Day parade in Chicago.
Nice. And why is that?
It's so goofy. Like the Irish Plumbers Association plans it.
Yeah.
And it just has a really cool family feel, even though it's in downtown Chicago.
Yeah.
Everyone is just so excited to be there. And like I said, it's a lot of local organizations. So I feel like you get kind of this depiction of the people that live there, even if they might live a little outside the city, they live in the burbs or whatever, but they're just so proud to be there and proud to
Hmm.
represent whoever they're representing. So we march in that one almost every year. We have a group
Nice.
that marches in that. Yeah. And a side benefit, you can go and see the river dyed green before the parade. So that's pretty cool.
True, true. All right, so St. Patty's Day in Chicago has a little bit more of like a homegrown feel, whereas maybe Macy's Thanksgiving in New York has more of like the high production, sort of like glitz and glamour element. Would that be like the compare and contrast?
Yeah, I would say, what we were just talking about, like Macy's is a little more low key than I think people expect. I
Oh,
would say
really?
at the top of the spectrum was probably the Rose Bowl. I don't think I've ever
Oh,
seen a parade that organized in my life.
wow. All right.
So,
Yeah,
but
so
you
they
also
all,
mentioned, I didn't know this. Apparently, it's longer than the other ones too.
I believe
So,
so, substantially.
yeah, and I'm just pulling because you and I have had this conversation about large events and parades and like,
Hmm.
is it worth it? You know, should you just have a regular trip? Should you just watch the parade versus participating in it?
Yeah.
And I've always said it kind of just depends on the trip you want because if you're going to do one of these large parades, I think it's good to accept that you're not going to have a full tour on top of it, just because it is exhausting. I mean, these hours are crazy, and it should be the main event of you going to that city.
Mm,
And
yeah.
it's totally possible to sprinkle in, a Broadway show here and a dinner here, but don't stress yourself out and do too much and just let the parade be the star of it if that is something that you want to do.
Yeah.
So I
Like,
think that would be after many, many years of experience, I think that would be a big piece of advice.
yeah, realistic expectations about
Yeah.
how much else should be done. It's not going to stop people from trying.
Right.
But from
Well,
experience, you can say that there should be some balance there. Yeah.
yeah, and I think for me, like a perfect Macy's trip, you're going to do the parade. You're going to maybe go see the floats blown up on the Upper West Side. That would be cool. Maybe do one Broadway show, walk through Central Park because it is gorgeous. And they have so many Christmas markets too. And same thing with Chicago. Like,
Mm,
take advantage of the seasonal things,
for real.
and it really kind of rounds out that experience.
Ah, lovely stuff. And absolute fountain of knowledge and insight as always, Jennie Gulley. We really appreciate you being here and talking with us here on Group Collect the podcast. And that'll do it for today. We really appreciate everybody listening to Group Collect the podcast. Do you have any parting thoughts or words as we all kind of scurry off to our family and enjoy a communal and Thanksgiving-like environment, Kathlyn?
No, I just hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday season. And the first Thanksgiving definitely did happen in St.
Oh,
Augustine. So anyone who is willing to recreate the very first one that has ever happened is welcome to come and visit and join me and my family for Thanksgiving this year.
wow. Wow. Shots fired.
We're smoking a turkey for the first time this year, so wish me luck.
Good luck with all that. Now, if you are enjoying the show and are not subscribed, do find us on anywhere that you listen to podcasts: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions, thoughts, comments about the show, please feel free to email me at Erik, that's Erik, at groupcollect.com, and we'd love to hear from you. On behalf of both of my co-hosts today, this is Erik Young saying your monthly reminder to stay cool and collecting. This has been a Group Collect production.